Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 144, coming at you from the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you listen to your podcasts with the videos on YouTube. We got a good show this week. We got a couple fights that have been announced. We will talk about the PFL Sioux Falls event, recap the UFC Fight Night Vegas 116 at the Apex, and then, of course, preview UFC Fight Night Perth, which will be happening local time down under. So let's jump right in. We have Nikolai Veretennikov taking on Chaos Williams May 16th. That's a good scrap between two veterans. We have Jan Kutalaba taking on Navajo Sterling June 20th. That was a fight that I was saying they should book. I'm excited for that one. Should be a banger. We have Diane Barbosa taking on Veronica Hardy all the way out in July 18th. And then PFL Sioux Falls, that's happening this Saturday. Prelims at 4 p.m. Pacific, main card 7 p.m. on ESPN2, so local television. Solid card. I've told you guys my opinions on the PFL. I've watched a ton, tried to give it a chance. It usually doesn't shake out. I think this one has potential. We have Logan Storley taking on Florim Zendelli. I got Logan Storley in that. Godzi Rabadanov taking on Alex Chizov. Godzi's been steamrolling people. I expect him to continue here. We have Simeon Powell taking on Emiliano Sordi. I have Simeon Powell. We have Henan Fajeda taking on Sergey Bilestiny. I'm taking Henan Fajeda, who's actually an underdog. I'm not going to act like I've seen Sergey before. I'm just shocked he's an underdog. Big heavy hitter. We have Magomedov taking on Leandro Higo. Should be a good one. I'm taking Magomedov. And then we have ex-UFCer Talia Santos taking on Yan Kuhi. I have Talia in that fight as well. So solid little card. A lot of names I'm not aware of, but some big names. I do think Godzi Rabadanov is one of the better talents that would be able to come into the UFC and compete. But let's recap what went down in the Apex for UFC Fight Night Vegas 116. I went 7-4 on my picks. So overall, we're 876 wins, 429 losses, 13 no contests and draws. I've continued to keep that more than doubled up the losses. On the year, 96 wins, 39 losses, 2 no contests and draws. So off to a good start this year, entering quarter 2. To recap this card, I will say, the prelims started slow, but it picked up with some fun back and forth fights throughout. The old guys showed out. The fight of the night was a ton of fun. The main card overall I thought was solid, but there wasn't major highlights or huge excitement, but there was some good moments, some back and forth fights. There was a lot of decisions, and this was a grappling heavy card for you casuals out there. I think I previewed this a 4 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10, but I am recapping it a 6 out of 10. Quality product overall, a little slow start and a lot of grappling, but some close fights back and forth. A couple good fights that we did not break down. We had Jackson McVeigh with a round 1 submission via Bravo choke over Cedricus Dumas. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Jackson. I mean, Cedricus, I'm surprised he's still with the UFC. He does stay active, takes short notice fights. It seems like he's there to get a paycheck. That was a pretty bad performance. We had veteran Davey Grant with a unanimous decision over Adrian Luna Martinetti. That was fight of the night. 100 G's for both of them. I think I said 50 for performance. It's 100 now. But Davey Grant, wily veteran, still doing it, taking on a UFC newcomer who was known for that insane Contender Series brawl. But let's kick this off in the prelims. A fight I got wrong. We had Cody Durden with a unanimous decision over Rafael Filho. And I mean, here we go. Cody Durden on short notice again, fighting for his UFC career. He's coming off a horrible outing about a month and a half ago. Well, the first round, Cody was able to hang with all the grappling, and he was actually leading the dance this time. In his fight a month and a half ago, he got out-grappled from the jump, and he was leading the dance and getting takedowns. It was definitely a sporadic round. Hoffel was wanting to stick with his grappling. He was kind of spazzing through positions, trying to keep Cody on the octagon canvas, but Cody was able to stick in half guard, control Filio, and then actually have a shot at throwing some ground and pound, which he hasn't been doing a lot of when he has control. So he took round 1. Well, round 2, Hoffel fought back, was able to spend some time on top, threw kind of some wild, chaotic shots, some crazy exchanges in the pocket with Cody. It was a close round, but I had Filio winning to set up a winner-takes-all round 3. And at the pace of this fight, I thought Cody was going to be done by round 3, but he showed that he was prepared after fighting a month and a half ago, was in good shape. Hoffel couldn't make, or I think Cody couldn't make weight, so this was a catch weight. So not having to cut all the way down to 125 probably was a massive advantage for him. And then he was able to finish round 3 with Hoffel's back compromise. Cody was close to a rear naked choke. But hey, man, all this Cody slander, massive win for Cody, impressive performance. Hoffel's a solid fighter, been on a win streak. I was actually surprised that Hoffel was the fighter that was gassing out, having a full camp, not having to cut. But Cody forced him to go the entire 15 minutes at a high pace, and he didn't have much success when the fight was standing, as Cody was closing distance quickly and making this a scrap. Statistically, Cody landed 91 total strikes, 34 of them significant. He had 5 takedowns. He was 5 for 5. If he wanted it, he got it. Had a submission attempt and 5 minutes and 14 seconds of control time, so more than a round. And Hoffel landed 50 total strikes, 23 of them significant. He was 2 for 3 in takedowns, a reversal, and 3 minutes and 8 seconds of control time. So Cody ends his 4-fight losing streak. He starts a new winning streak. His first since September of 2024, although he's been super active. And Hoffel starts a new losing streak. He is 3-2 since 2024. So what's next? I think Cody and Alessandro Costa would be an exciting watch. And Hoffel and Hyung-Sung Park, that's the fight to make. Moving on, the final prelim fight we broke down. I was saying this last week. I think a lot of these BJJ specialists just really haven't come off the page. They're in their back half of their 30s. So this was a dog your boy hit home with Eric McConico here out of the MMA lab in Phoenix with a unanimous decision over Rodolfo Vieira. Now, Rodolfo started this fight as good as you can. He clipped Eric right on the top of the head, which kind of puts their balance out. And Eric kind of fell down, looked like he was maybe knocked down, almost knocked out. But I think it was that equilibrium issue. But Rodolfo clips him, jumps on him, tries for some ground and pound or a submission. But Eric somehow was able to quickly regain composure, got back up to his feet. They did exchange some takedowns back and forth, a few strikes. But Rodolfo, clearly with a nice damaging spot, kind of chaotic back and forth scrambles, takes round 1. Round 2, Eric started finding his flow. He was throwing nice combinations at the body, up high. He was mixing it up. And Rodolfo would land some decent strikes himself. But Eric definitely landed the more clean and damaging strikes to make it again a winner-takes-all round 3. Well, in the final round, Eric was leading the dance. He was landing his nice straight jab over and over. He had some nice 1-2s down the middle. Ended up forcing Rodolfo to clinch Eric up against the cage. But Eric battled through it, poured on some strikes at the end of the round to finish strong. I think he won the fight, stealing the end of that round. Huge win for Eric McConico. Has been an underdog most of his tenure in the UFC. And Rodolfo really on a bad stretch here. Statistically, Rodolfo landed 58 total strikes, 40 of them significant. He only had 4 takedowns and 15 attempts. So after clipping Eric in round 1, He was like, man, I need to get to grappling. Well, Eric did a really good job defending those. Rodolfo did have a submission attempt that knocked down in 6 minutes and 24 seconds of control time. But Eric landed 73 total, 54 significant, so quite a bit more in both categories. Was 2 for 2 in takedowns with 51 seconds of control time. So Eric starts a new winning streak. He's an even 2-2 in the UFC. Rodolfo extends his losing streak to 2. He is 2-3 since 2024. So what's next? I would like to book Eric and Ismail Nardiev. I think that would be a fun fight. And for Rodolfo, how about some fellow veterans? Maybe Brad Tavares or Marc-Andre Barrial, although I hope those two face each other. Moving into the main round, or in the main card, I was pretty positive Ryan Spann was going to get a knockout here. A lot of people have overlooked Ryan Spann, but then he shows up for the fight looking massive, and I'm like, man, he might gas himself out. Well, regardless, Ryan takes this fight on short notice, and again, he was looking thick. You know, he's a former light heavyweight, but I had a feeling Ryan would be able to hang. But man, he did good when Marcus was able to get on top with his takedown attempts early in the fight, and he was able to shut them down, getting guillotines to wrestle back up, going on singles. A lot of big guys like that usually fall on their back and they're dead in the water. And honestly, Marcus never looked comfortable in this fight. He wasn't a threat with his BJJ when he did get takedowns. You know, if Ryan gets in good shape and takes things seriously, I think he could make a run in the heavyweight division. But this is a big win for Ryan. He's still in his prime. You know, Marcus could be in position to be cut. With the lack of the talent in the heavyweight division, I'm sure he'll get another chance. But massive win for Ryan as he starched Marcus in round 2. And there was even a weird moment where Marcus was going to get Ryan's back, was about to get the hooks in and like slipped forward by himself. It's just weird for such a high-level BJJ guy. Did not look clean in this fight. And a lot of the times, again, some of the best black belts at BJJ, it doesn't really translate to MMA grappling. You really got to work on the craft. It's a different beast. But statistically, Marcus only landed 8 total insignificant strikes. He only had 1 takedown in 7 attempts. Again, credit to Ryan. He did have a submission attempt in 1 minute and 9 seconds of control time. Well, Ryan landed 20 total strikes, 15 of them significant with a knockdown, and 2 minutes and 56 seconds of control time. So Ryan extends that winning streak to 2. He's 3-2 since 2024. And Marcus extends his losing streak to 2. He's 0-2-1 in the UFC. So what's next? I think Ryan and Jailton Almeida, that kind of seems like a destiny fight. And for Marcus, how about Guillermo Pat? Again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's cut. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't, because I need bodies in that division. Then how about this? A fight I got wrong. The veteran back at it again. Yoni Barcelos with a split decision victory over Montel Jackson. I said last week, my gut was telling me Barcelos is going to put a pace on Montel. We have not seen Montel throw more volume. He tries to be a sniper. And my gut told me Yoni would win this fight. Because I got burned by older veterans the week before, I changed my mind. I wish I would have stuck with it. But man, Barcelos' fighting style is causing problems in this division. I just didn't have the guts after the Gilbert Burns fight. But regardless, I digress. I mean, Montel started the fight off with a big shot from range and sniped Yoni, put him on the canvas, much like that Buchecha Rodolfo fight. You're like, oh man, Montel with a perfect start. Well, Montel is just like Rodolfo, after sniping Montel, tried to jump on him and Montel, much like Rodolfo, snipes Yoni, tries to jump on him, get some ground and pound, get some control, but Barcelos was able to survive and wrestle up, was able to recover and finish the fight with finish the round with having Montel's back. Little too late, definitely round 1 Montel. Well, round 2, Yoni ran right at Montel, throwing takedown after takedown and wearing Montel out, and it really neutralized Montel's offense as he was stepping backwards just trying to defend takedowns. Yoni actually ended this round getting Montel's back as well, having a pretty deep choke in, but couldn't get the finish. So this set us up for another winner takes all round 3. And in round 3, Yoni was just a much fresher fighter cardio-wise and took Montel down, put it on him, put a stamp on the fight. You know, Yoni has been doing this to younger fighters, but man, we got to give him some credit. This winning streak he is on now is very, very impressive. But I've given Montel a lot of crap because he only fights once a year. He's been holding a spot at the very end of the top 15. Now with this loss, I'll be surprised if we see him in the top 15 again. Statistically, Montel landed 72 strikes, only 35 of them significant with the knockdown. And Yoni landed 33 total strikes, 21 of them significant, but he had 6 takedowns in 18 attempts. Not a good ratio. Good credit to Montel defending that. The energy it is to get down and up and defend is impressive. But Yoni also had 2 submission attempts and 7 minutes and 45 seconds of control time, so a round and a half. So Yoni now extending that winning streak to 5. He's 5-2 since 2023. He enters the rankings at number 14. And Montel extends his losing streak to 2. He's 2-2 since 2024 and exits the top 15. So what's next? I mean, Yoni's on a roll. I think he's got to fight in the top 15 again with this win streak, fighting a lot of young and up-and-coming talent. I think the fight that makes the most sense is him and Marlon Vera. This is a good stylistic matchup, good for both men where they're at right now. And for Montel, how about Kyler Phillips? Moving on. Another fight I got wrong, and what a performance here, as Rafa Garcia got a unanimous decision over Alexander Hernandez. I mean, Rafa, he's been looking good, but he just really leveled up in this fight. He marched forward the entire fight and literally just boxed the shit out of Alexander. Hernandez was definitely on his bike, circling, backing up, throwing a jab out here, maybe a 1-2, but didn't follow up with enough combinations and was headhunting, wasn't getting low leg kicks or body shots. And Rafa was just throwing combo after combo. And by round 2, Garcia had Alexander beat up and pretty bloodied. By round 3, Alexander really was in desperation mode, down 2 rounds, trying to survive, and started winging big loopy shots at Rafa, hoping they would land. Well, Garcia completely outstruck and outgrappled Alexander, who is on a pretty impressive win streak of his own, but Alexander really didn't bite down and make it happen and let his offense flow early in this fight. He is much like Montel. He doesn't throw as much volume, tries to be very precise and measured with his strikes, but sometimes that costs you. But again, credit to Garcia, literally just walked down Alexander, came to fight. He's really becoming a true problem in the lightweight division, which there's not a lack of those guys at 155. But statistically, Rafa landed 79 total strikes, 59 of them significant. He had 4 takedowns in 7 attempts, so pretty much got him when he wanted him, with a minute and 50 seconds of control time. So with 4 takedowns, credit to Alexander not being controlled too long. And Alexander landed 54 total, so 25 less, 50 significant, 9 less. He was 0 for 1 in takedowns. So Rafa extends his winning streak to 3. He is 3-1 since 2024. Alexander ends that 4-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He's 4-2 since 2024. So what's next? This is a certified banger. Rafa Garcia and Nasrat Haparist. And for Alexander, how about Terrence McKinney? Moving on in the co-main, we had Yoselin Edwards with a unanimous decision over Norma Dumont. Another fight I got completely wrong. If I were to pick one fight on this card, I would have picked Norma Dumont. And I mean, Norma tried to fight a conservative, possible, just like try to escape this fight, knowing that she was really in a chance, probably the next title shot. The Kayla Amanda fight has been delayed. She's got to fight to stay active until it happens. Her dreams is about to come true. You just have to win. And she didn't go out there to win this fight. we know that Norma fights to decision a lot, but she has really dominated and looked like the next contender. Yaslin's on an impressive streak. She's definitely had a big jump up in competition here, but she just bit down on her mouthpiece and went for it. She won this fight purely due to activity. It's not like she landed a lot of crisp, clean strikes. But round one especially, but most of the fight, Norma threw strikes, and when she did, they landed cleaner. A lot cleaner than what Edwards threw. The problem for Norma is that Yaslin was pressuring her and in her face the entire fight, and Norma would throw a combo, backpedal, and circle and try to get away. Just land enough to try to steal on the scorecards. Well, I think if Norma would have just stood in the pocket and traded, maybe mixed in some takedowns, I think she could have easily got the win. It's crazy with so much at stake for Norma. I just think she kind of forced to take a fight before her title shot. She wanted to escape cleanly, get a win as simple as possible. But that's the game. Norma is usually super game. There is maybe a chance she was injured. I don't think that was the case. But credit to Yaslin, the biggest matchup of her career with an opportunity to leapfrog the division. She brought the fight to Norma after losing round one, was completely way more active. She pretty much doubled the volume that Norma did. And again, they weren't landing a lot, but the pressure, the aggressiveness won her this fight as Norma was kind of just running away. Very disappointed with Norma. No one's going to be more disappointed than herself. All that she's done over the past few years, she comes out and this is how she shows up. Regardless, Yaslin is in the deep end now. Watch out. Statistically, Norma landed 66 total strikes, 51 of them significant. She was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts. And she did have 2 minutes and 9 seconds of control time. Now, Yaslin landed 121 total strikes, so again, double. 70 significant. She was 0 for 3 in takedowns with a reversal and 2 minutes and 21 seconds of control time. So Yaslin now extends her winning streak to 5. She's 5-1 since 2024. She moves up 8 spots to number 3. And Norma ends that 6-fight winning streak. She starts a new losing streak and moves down 1 spot to number 4. So what's next? I mean, if the division continues to stay inactive like it has, I think Yaslin's going to have to fight again before a title shot, and Juliana Pena makes sense. If somehow it moves quickly, Amanda beats Kayla, she defends her title. Kayla wins, she defends. Although Kayla's been very vocal on media that she doesn't want to fight at 135 after the Amanda fight. So there's a lot of uncertainty there. I doubt it stays active is my point, so I'm saying her and Juliana Pena. Moving on, and for Norma, she's going to have to let it shake out a little bit. I try to tell y'all the main event, man, it's a bummer. Aljamain Sterling, after all he's done for the UFC, has to main event at the Apex. But he put on a show. Aljamain Sterling with a unanimous decision over Yusuf Zalal. I just had a feeling Aljo was going to take it to Yusuf, and boy was I right. They're not identical clones, but a lot of what Yusuf does, I just felt like Aljo is better. I mean, credit to Zalal, it's not like he got completely smoked. He showed to be a worthy opponent, but Aljo is just too experienced and such a good offensive grappler. I mean, Yusuf was completely neutralized the first 2 rounds and in round 2. Aljo had Zalal in danger with a body triangle and was landing like a body triangle where he was posting him up and just landing nasty ground and pound, had a potential rear naked choke in, but Zalal prevailed. Round 3, Yusuf finally found himself in position and control. He had control time throughout the round, put Aljo in a body lock of his own, and it was really a fight for positions. He didn't land a lot of damage like Aljo did when he had control or much ground and pound, but it seemed like Zalal's first 5-round fight was showing because he seemed to be slowing down. He was breathing heavily, but Aljo looked great. I mean, Aljo continued to strike into takedowns throughout the fight, had a good amount of ground and pound, neutralized Yusuf for the rest of the fight. Some might say Aljamain sucks, he's boring, he always just grapples. I completely disagree. He's a former champion that is aggressive, he doesn't just take people down and hold them there. He has explosive takedowns. Once he gets them down, he's dominant. He lands damage. He finds submission attempts. And a very impressive gas tank. Aljo is giving himself an opportunity for one more title run. And Yusuf, to be honest, he's just scratching the surface as he's entering his prime. I think he will learn from this and has a bright future ahead. But looking at the stats, Aljo landed 220 total strikes, 46 of them significant. He had 6 takedowns in 11 attempts, better than 50%. If he wanted it, he got it. He had a submission attempt and 13 minutes and 49 seconds of control time, so close to 3 rounds. Yusuf landed 61 total, so less than a third, 35 significant with a submission attempt and 3 minutes and 59 seconds of control time. So Aljo now extends that winning streak to 2. He's 3-1 since 2024, all in the featherweight division, and he moves up 1 spot to number 4. And Yusuf ends that 8-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He's 5-1 since 2024 and drops 1 spot to number 8. So where do these gents go next? Well, Volkanovski, if he's finally booked against Evloev, I think the winner fights again this year. You know, Aljo has been vocal about wanting the title shot. I mean, there is a chance he could get it. But if you make an eliminator fight between Aljo and John Silva, that's a win-win. And for Yusuf, how about veteran Brian Ortega? Again, solid overall card, some good performances. Rafa Garcia, Yoni Barcelos, Aljamain Sterling, Ryan Spann, Mechanico, Cody Durden fighting for his UFC life. Well worth watching. If you didn't watch it live, watch it back on Paramount Plus. But this weekend, unless you're pulling an all-nighter on the West Coast or waking up very early on the East Coast, we have Fight Night Perth, prelims at 1 p.m. Pacific, main card 4 a.m. Pacific, all on Paramount Plus. To preview this card, I don't think the prelims have many fights that have a lot on the line. I don't think they're very meaningful, but I do think it's good matchmaking. I think the fights will deliver better than it looks on paper. The Australian crowd usually shows out. They're getting this prime time locally. Plenty of good Aussie talent. Dom Marfan, Jonathan Mikulev, Colby Thickness, Jacob Malkoon, Junior Tafa, Cam Rouston, Tai Tuivasa, Steve Erceg, Quillian Salkild, and Jack Della Maddalena. The main card does have 3 really good fights with a ton on the line, so I am super pumped for those. I am previewing this card a 6 out of 10. There are quite a few fights we will not break down. We had Road to the UFC alum Dom Marfan taking on Contender Series alum Cody Steele. We have Colby Thickness taking on Vince Morales. Junior Tafa taking on Contender Series alum Kevin Christian. Contender Series alum Cam Rouston taking on Robert Brizek. So we'll kick this off with 2 prelim fights. We have Themba Mamba Garimbo, 35 years old with a 14-6 record, taking on Jonathan the Captain Mikulev, 27 years old with a 9-1 record. Now this is an intriguing fight as Jonathan is 3-0 in the UFC and he's coming off a big and dominant win over Oban Elliott. Now he's getting a scrappy veteran who is coming off 2 losses and is in desperation mode. This is the time to see how good Jonathan is and if Themba really wants to be in the UFC and fight for his opportunities, because he's kind of size and weight bullied people. He really hasn't added clean technicality to his game. Breaking this down, Themba is a Fury FC alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 3-2 since 2024, so he has been active. 6 of his 14 wins are via submission, and 3 of his 6 losses are also via submission. So to submit or be submitted, and I do think a lot of that is he strikes into takedowns and kind of wears on people and, again, size bullies them, but the technical grapplers submit him. Now, Jonathan is a Contender Series alum. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, 3-0 in the UFC, and 4 of his 9 wins are via submission. I definitely could see a submission by Jonathan here. I mean, Jonathan is still very green. He's adding to his game as he's barely 27. Themba at this point is who he is. He's a scrappy fighter who's okay everywhere, but isn't great anywhere. He has some solid power. I do think Jonathan is more technical and can have advantages with his offensive grappling. This is a very close fight to pick. It'll probably be a close decision fight or a Jonathan submission. For that sake, I'm not putting this on a parlay, but I am taking Jonathan Mikulev. Moving on. We have Jacob Mamba Malkoun, 30 years old with a 9-3 record, taking on Gerald GM3 Mearshart. 38 years old with a 37-21 record, 58 pro fights, is very impressive at 38. Now, Malkoun seems like he's kind of a long-time veteran. You know, he was cut from the UFC in 2024. He had a year off, then came back on short notice to fight Torres Finney. But he's barely 30 years old in his prime right now. And I thought he really showed out against Finney. You know, GM3 is damn near 39 years old. He hasn't won since August of 2024. And he hasn't looked very good in his last few fights. He seems slow, sluggish. It seems like all the fighting miles have caught up to him. Breaking this down, Jacob has a boxing and BJJ style with a black belt in BJJ. He's on a 2-fight winning streak and is 2-1 since 2023. Now, Gerald has a southpaw stance. He trains out of Killcliff FC. He has a black belt in Rofu Sport Kickboxing and BJJ. He has some accolades. He has the most submission wins in middleweight history with 11. He's tied with Damian Maia for third most submissions in UFC history with 11. He has the highest submission rate in UFC history. Out of his 12 wins, 11 submissions, that's 91.7%. He has the second most submission attempts in middleweight history with 19, behind Thales Letis. He has the most finishes in middleweight history with 12. The highest finish rate in UFC history, 12 finishes, 12 wins, that's 100%. And this is only calculated for people that have at least 10 wins in the UFC. He's tied with Michael Bisping for second most bouts in middleweight history with 24. He's a King of the Cage, Titan FC, an RFA alum and former champion. He's on a 4-fight losing streak, only 2-4 since 2024. 29 of his 37 wins are via submission, 6 via knockout, so 35 of his 37 wins are via finish. Very impressive. Now, 10 of his 21 losses are also via submission, but he does have a 4.5-inch reach advantage. I think this is going to come down to if Gerald can pull a rabbit out of the hat, let Jacob tire himself out in round 1, try to take an advantage by getting a submission from reversing Malkoun, or somehow getting a takedown of his own and getting his back. You know, Jacob is actually really good with his MMA grappling and BJJ, so I don't think that'll happen. But I think Jacob mauls GM3 by beating him up with combos, having the speed advantage, and sometimes mixing in takedowns. For that reason, I'm taking Jacob Malkoun. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on into the main card opener, we have Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa, 33 years old with a 15-9 record, taking on Louis Vanilla Gorilla Sutherland, 32 years old with a 10-5 record. I mean, the fact that Tai is still getting chances, he is fighting for his UFC life here. He was originally supposed to fight Sean Sharaf, who I think was a bit of an easier matchup for him, but supposedly he broke his nose. So now he gets Louis, who's new to the UFC, fighting for his UFC life in his prime at 32. And although he's had a tough start in his UFC, he's faced some good competition. Now Tai, he doesn't look great in the grappling, and he didn't look great in his last fight against Taliesin Teixeira back in February. You know, he wasn't in great shape. He obviously lives off his big, powerful hands. He grappled like shit. Didn't show any striking defense. There was a moment where He headbutted a punch. And we haven't got to see Louis' hands very much either, as he was finished in the first round in both of his UFC fights. Now, Ty, I think, finds a way to win, gets the fight over fast, but man, this is going to be a wild heavyweight fight. Breaking it down, Ty has the longest losing streak in UFC heavyweight division history with 6. Obviously, he's on a 6-fight losing streak. He hasn't won since February of 2022, and 13 of his 14 wins are via knockout. Now, Louis is a PFL and Bellator alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 0-2 in the UFC. 8 of his 10 wins are via knockout, and he has a 5-inch leg reach advantage. I expect both of these men to come at each other throwing bombs. If Louis is smart in this fight, he's going to look to take Ty down. I just think Ty fights somewhat smart because, again, if he loses, he's going to be cut. So maybe he'd rather fight out of the UFC since he isn't committed to being the best fighter he can be. He could get money elsewhere, fighting tin cans that he can knock out. But I think he's going to find a way and dig deep. I'm not putting this on any parlays, but I am taking Ty Tuivasa. Moving on, we have Shamil Gaziev, 36 years old with a 14-2 record and the number 15 next to his name, taking on Brando the Balkan Bear Pericic, 31 years old with a 6-1 record. Now, Shamil somehow beat Martin Buday in his UFC debut and got smoked by Jairzinho Rosenstrike, but won fights against Dontel Mays and Thomas Peterson. Then he had a top-ranked heavyweight fight against Waldo. He lost that, but he's still in his prime at 34, still in the rankings. But this is a big opportunity for Brando on his home turf to, leap into the mix of the rankings in his prime at 31 after not really beating anybody. Shamil has looked solid, but he's also looked bad. What version are we going to get? I don't know. I do think him coming off a loss, we do get the better version of Shamil. He's getting a young, hungry heavyweight newer to the UFC, so he's got to dig deep. Breaking this down, Shamil is a Brave and Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 4-2 in the UFC. 9 of his 14 wins are via knockout. Both of his losses are also via knockout. Life in the heavyweight, to knock out or be knocked out. Now, Brando has a wrestling style. He trains out of City Kickboxing. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, 2-0 in the UFC. 5 of his 6 wins are via knockout. At this point, I think Shamil is going to have to get a finish in the first 2 rounds. I don't think he's going to be able to hang for 15 minutes and do enough to win a decision against the younger Brando. Brando has only been finished once as a pro. That was via submission. But this is a heavyweight fight. Anyone can go down. If Brando's smart, he's going to utilize his wrestling, but he should be faster with his hands, so maybe he gets overzealous. I don't know. I just have a gut feeling Shamil Gaziev right now is a little bit better, so I am going to take Gaziev, but I'm avoiding this on any parlays possible. Again, a lot of good matchmaking, even fights here. Moving on, in the flyweights, we have Steve Astro Boy Erceg, 30 years old with a 13-4 record and the number 12 next to his name, taking on Tim Elliott, 39 years old with a 13-1 record and the number 11 next to his name. Now, Tim's about to turn 40 this year, but he is coming off a very impressive win after 2 years off due to injury. Steve came into the UFC. He was thrown into the deep end as a newcomer. I think he's learned a lot from those. You can tell he's still kind of building his confidence back, but he is just now starting his prime at 30, and he's had to turn to grappling in his last few fights to get wins, like defeating Ode Osborne, but he has showcased how good he can be through 5 rounds. He had a relatively close fight against Alexandre Pantoja, where he defended 10 of Alexandre's takedown attempts. I think he's going to have success eliminating Tim's offensive grappling and turn this into a striking battle where he should have the speed, power, and technical advantage. But Tim has experience. He's going to try to make this fight ugly. He has that weird unorthodox style, and he's going to look to continue his winning ways. Breaking this down, Steve is on a one-fight winning streak. He is 2-3 since 2024. 6 of his 13 wins are via submission. Now, Tim has a blue belt in BJJ. He has a D2 wrestling background out of Central Oklahoma. He won the JUCO championships at Labette Community College in 2007. He's an Art of War, RFA, and Titan FC alum. He's a former Titan FC champ with 2 successful title defenses. And he's also an Ultimate Fighter alum and champion. His last 2 fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He has the most takedowns landed in UFC flyweight history with 61. The most total strikes landed in flyweight history, 1,828. He's tied with Joseph Benavidez for second most bouts in flyweight history at 19. He's tied with Benavidez for most decision wins in flyweight history with 7. He has the most decision bouts in flyweight history with 13. He has the most decision wins in flyweight history at 7. He has the third most total fight time in flyweight history, 4 hours, 4 minutes, and 5 seconds. He has the second most control time in flyweight history, 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 33 seconds, only behind Demetrius Johnson. He also has the second most top position time in flyweight history, 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 18 seconds, also behind DJ. He has the third most submission attempts in flyweight history with 16. He was the 2016 Comeback Fighter of the Year. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 3-1 since 2023. 8 of his 21 wins are via submission. 6 of his 13 losses are also via submission. So to submit or be submitted. Now, Tim has been there. He's done that. He's really seen everything. He looked really great from his return from injury, but I don't think he's going to easily be able to take Steve down and control him. That's the big differentiator in this fight. You know, Steve looked really good in the Brandon Moreno and Pantoja fights, but even though he won against Ode, I didn't think he looked great. I think we're going to see the best version of Steve. I think he outstrikes Tim, wins the grappling battles, and Tim is going to have to find a way to take down Steve and hold him there. Maybe look for submissions if he's going to win. I don't think he's able to do that. I think Steve is too offensive. He's too technical. Tim potentially can get a takedown. It's still a couple rounds. But I think Steve is going to come out victorious and look great doing so. For that reason, I'm taking Steve Erceg. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down. And we getting that bread. Moving on to the co-main event. We have Beneil Dariush, 36 years old with a 23-7-1 record and the number 12 next to his name, taking on Quillian Salkild, 26 years old with an 11-1 record. Now, Quillian had a major boost to his career with that head kick knockout against Nasrat Haparis. Then he walked down Jamie Malarkey, but he really hasn't had to deal with anyone close to the skill level of Beneil Dariush. The challenge for Beneil is he's about to be 37. Everyone acts like he's washed. I don't think he's washed. I just don't think he can handle the damage and the big power anymore. But he has to be careful because Quillian has quick, heavy-handed strikes, and he showcased what he could do in a dominant victory against Renato Moicano, so I don't think Benny's done yet. But breaking this down, Beneil has a BJJ style. He trains out of King's MMA. He has a black belt in BJJ and Muay Thai. He won silver in the 2009, 10, and 12 World Championships in the gi. He won gold in 2008, 9, and 10 in no gi. He's tied with Donald Cerrone for third most wins in UFC lightweight history with 17. He had the 2020 Comeback of the Year against Drakkar Klose at UFC 248. He's on a one-fight losing streak and is 1-3 since 2023. 8 of his 23 wins are via submission. 6 of his 7 losses are via knockout. Now, Quillian has an orthodox stance. He has a black belt in BJJ. 3 of his last 4 fights have been performance of the night. He's showing up. He's showing out. He's the 2025 Newcomer of the Year. He had the 2025 Knockout of the Year against Nasrat Haparas at UFC 321. He's a Contender Series alum. He's on a 10-fight winning streak, 5-0 in the UFC. 4 of his 11 wins are via knockout, 4 via submission, so 8 of his 11 wins via finish. And he does have a 3-inch reach advantage. Now, Quillian's going to look to be aggressive and come at Benny from the start. There's definitely a chance that Quillian could clip him. You know, Dariush has been knocked out in 3 of his last 4 fights. Benny actually missed weight in his last outing, and he was finished 5 months ago. So who knows if he's proper yet. That's a big issue. I mean, Sal Kill definitely could take advantage. I think Benny can expose and counter Quillian's aggressiveness and lead to grappling, and he could beat him up a little bit on the ground. If Benil can take Renato Moicano down and control him and outstrike him, I think he very well can do that against Sal Kill at this stage of his UFC career. I think Benny has to survive round 1. That's crucial. And if all goes well, I think he shows Quillian a thing or 2, or maybe even 3. I'm not confident enough to put this on a parlay. I am taking the underdog here. The dog's coming to eat. But I'm avoiding this on any parlays. But for the sake of picking, I am taking Beneil Dariush. Then in the main event, we got Jack Della Maddalena. 29 years old with an 18-3 record and the number 1 next to his name, taking on Carlos the Nightmare Prates. 32 years old with a 23-7 record and the number 5 next to his name. I mean, this is a fucking awesome headliner. The winner of this fight very well could be the next opponent for Islam if Ilya doesn't move up. You know, JDM has absolutely dominated his competition, but he was clearly out-grappled and controlled by Islam. I love the things that Carlos is good at. He's very talented. He doesn't pose that threat to JDM, though. I think that both men have serious power in their hands. I do think Carlos will have the speed advantage, but I do think JDM is more technical, and he has more ways to win with his offensive grappling, but he has to be careful of Carlos's ability to counter, because he could definitely get caught. You know, Carlos has really impressed me with his cardio, his ability to fight 5 rounds. I did not expect that as a cigarette smoker. I highly doubt this goes 5 rounds. But Carlos comes to scrap, and he's going to make JDM more offensive. I wouldn't be surprised if JDM mixes in takedowns early and often to mix things up and wear on Prates. To break this down, Jack trains out of Scrappy MMA. He has a black belt in BJJ. 6 of his 9 UFC fights have been performance of the night or fight of the night. He shows up, he shows out. He's the former welterweight champion, the first Australian UFC welterweight champion. He's tied with Leon Edwards and Ian Machado Gary for the 3rd longest win streak in welterweight history with 8. He's the 2022 Newcomer of the Year. He's a Cage Warriors and Contender Series alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 5-1 since 2023. 12 of his 18 wins are via knockout. Now, Carlos has a Muay Thai style. He has a southpaw stance. He trains out of Fighting Nerds with a black belt in BJJ. He's also a showman. 6 of his 7 UFC fights have been performance of the night. He shows up, he shows out. He has the 3rd highest knockdown average per 15 minutes in UFC welterweight history at 2.1. He was the 2024 Newcomer of the Year. He's a 1 LFA and Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 6-1 in the UFC. 18 of his 23 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 7 losses are via submission. And he also has a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch leg reach advantage. Now, if Carlos is going to win, he's going to cut off the cage and get JDM trapped, where he could launch those vicious combos with his hands down low, counter off of JDM's aggressiveness. I'm curious to see how fast this fight starts. I do think it's going to be a little bit slower as both men are measured. You know, Carlos is going to wait for JDM to come to him so he could counter him. Again, I just think that JDM has more ways to win, but he's going to have to be measured because Carlos can catch a body at any given moment. I can't wait for this fight. The welterweight division is one of the more exciting divisions in all of UFC. I'm not putting this fight on any parlays, but for the sake of picking, I'm taking Jack Della Maddalena. I won't be watching this live. I'll wake up on Saturday and watch it first thing in the morning. But it's going to be a doozy. The Aussie talent on full display. The main event, of course. How good is Quillian today at only 26? Steve Ursig, Tim Elliott, Gaziev, Brando should be fun. Can Ty survive the UFC? Plenty of fun action. And that sets us up for next week. A massive UFC 328 in Newark, New Jersey. I mean, this card is stacked from the top to the bottom. 2 title fights, some high-ranked matchups that will change the divisions. The headliners are Khamzat Chimaev and third-ranked Sean Strickland. Woo-wee! I can't wait for that one. And then the flyweight phenom showdown, Joshua Van taking on third-ranked Tatsuro Taira. That's episode 144. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.